Hello folks. Oh man, don't you just love nature? It's when you really get into these secluded locations away from any human development that you really see the beauty of what lays beyond human areas. It's amazing. And as you can see, this river, I don't know if it's a river or a creek or whatever, but you can see how when kept alone, water has eroded and weathered all these rocks to where you see these toilet bowl formations, water going down, swirling in before dumping itself deeper within the river. I just love it. I can't explain it enough. We are no longer in Vermont. We have arrived in New Hampshire, a familiar state that we've been to a couple times. And let me tell you, I love the Granite State. It's such an underrated region of the US. And I think the biggest secret of all of New England is that you go far enough from the cities, maybe a 3-4 hour drive, and you're in Colorado, Wyoming, basically, with all these mountains and features of nature. It's amazing. We're in the northern region of the state, where it's dominated by nature. You hardly see any cities or towns in this northern frontier region of the state, which is a great thing for us here on the Coverage Project because we get to explore a state park that I've wanted to go to for a long time, that we didn't get to go to last August here in New England. So let me introduce you to Franconia Notch State Park. Come on, take a look at that. Isn't that amazing? Okay, we gotta go someplace else. Beautiful rapids carved by the water rushing down, turning into waterfalls. And of course, what a gorgeous alcove right here as the water drains into what is called the Basin. It forms another large pool. Where that water goes afterward, it'll eventually join into the waters of the Merrimack River, which when we were last in New Hampshire, we talked about that quite a bit. The Basin, it's only one part of Franconia Notch State Park. So you know the drill, we have to go to more of these places because it is a huge state park. It is so large and so long that, fascinating to me, when I was driving down I-93 to get to this park, basically a large stretch of the highway was dedicated to exits within the park. And instead of going at 70 miles per hour, you had to go at 45 because you were inside the territory of this state park. I don't think I've seen a state park like that, at least not yet on our experiences on the Coverage Project. Now, this state park runs for a long distance north to south. In fact, Interstate 93 runs straight through the middle of the park. And that's because the park is centered in between two mountain ranges. It's a notch in between them. Vermont has the Green Mountains, as we talked about yesterday, and New Hampshire has the White Mountains, particularly in the northern parts of the states. You have the Presidential Range, which has all those high peaks, and that's on one side of this state park. So you see these stark mountainscapes, and as we go down along this trail, we're gonna find something else that's pretty cool. So apparently this river's called the Pemigewasset. Maybe the locals say Pemi for short, I don't know. But look at this, all these colors of the river. Like an amber gold into a turquoise. And this is the same water that we saw at the Basin. We're just a bit south. Covered bridges. Can't visit New England without seeing one or two. Wow, this is like a natural, massive slip and slide. As I said back in Hocking Hills though, don't treat it like a slip and slide. You might get hurt. Oh my goodness. Well, let me introduce you to the Flume Gorge, only to be found in Franconia Notch State Park. This has got some serious fantasy vibes going on. You can imagine a film or a story about whatever, mystical forest. And in the middle of this mystical forest lay a huge gorge like this one, full of enchanting trees. It's really got some magical charm to it. Just take it in for a minute, everyone. Aside from the boardwalk we're standing on, everything is natural here. Everything. So as we walk further up this boardwalk, enjoy the majestic views, enjoy the magical scenery around us, from the moss to the rocks to the trees to the water, everything. But if you do want to go here, feel free to. Just know that you're going to be paying, some money. This place, I didn't believe it at first, but it has a reservation system where you gotta pay in advance. And lucky enough, there were a few tickets left. So if you go here to Franconia Notch State Park and specifically want to come to the Flume Gorge, make sure you got some money with you. Now that was incredible. I cannot express it enough how amazing that was. I mean, that was a state park. This all around us. Not a national park, it's just a state park. And yet, it just captivated me 100% through the whole journey of going up. From the sight of just the gorgeous views. Oh, I did it again. That was not even intentional. Gorgeous views. But anyway, between that and then just the feel of the cool breeze and the mist when you're by the waterfalls, and then just the touch of the damp rocks with lots of moss on it. Just an amazing, surreal trip through that Flume Gorge. I recommend it for anyone who loves nature. In fact, if you don't like the outdoors, come by and you will change your mind about the outdoors. Wow. There seems to be no end to the natural features you can find here at Franconia Notch. Unfortunately though, there always has to be an end to every coverage project video, so we're going to be going to our last attraction. State in the US has its own signature landmark or attraction or icon. For example, Pennsylvania has the Liberty Bell, and Texas may have the Alamo, and in New Hampshire there was little more famous than the Old Man of the Mountain. For about 200 years, the people of New Hampshire, they went here and gazed in admiration of somehow a natural formation in the shape of a man's face. I mean, do I need to elaborate? It's on the state quarter of New Hampshire. So that should tell you something about how near and dear the New Hampshireites viewed the Man of the Mountain. As we all know, nature does its own thing, and we as humans can do little to stop it. So unfortunately enough, after thousands of years of standing up tall and mighty from glacial activity here in the White Mountains. In 2003, it became yet another subject of nature's activity. And the face, the rocks on it, tumbled down. And I'm sure it was a devastating day in New Hampshire history when people noticed that the old man of the mountain no longer existed. So if you look up at the peak of that mountain, that is what remains of that old man's profile. So although in today's day and age, the old man of the mountain no longer exists, that did not stop the people of New Hampshire, and frankly people from around the country, to help and support a memorial to be built right at the foot of this mountain, to pay homage to a long-lasting symbol of New Hampshire. Just another thing I thought we should have ticked off on the long list of things to do in New Hampshire. So there we are, paying our respects to the old man of the mountain. Aside from that, just a nice little view. This is New Hampshire. This is the natural beauty of the Granite State. I really think New Hampshire is such a critically underrated state to visit. People should really come up here. People know of New England for a lot of the cities and maybe the culture and the history, but with nature, I really think this region of New Hampshire is on par with the stuff you might see out west. Well, Franconia Notch State Park, everyone. Somehow I really feel like this should be a national park more than everything else. I think New England needs more than just one national park. Hint, hint, not gonna spoil too much, needs more than one national park. And I think Franconia, this region here in the White Mountains, really could be a good candidate for it. But there we go, that ends our day here. Just like we spent one location in Vermont, so will we spend one location here in its twin state, New Hampshire. And that's the thing, we're going very quickly across these states. We gotta play a little catch up with the things we missed last August here on our New England excursion, the sequel, part 2. So we will be in another state come next video. So with that being said, let's just end the video right here on this beautiful site. Standing right at the foot of what used to be the old man of the mountain here in Franconia Notch State Park in the White Mountains of beautiful New Hampshire. More travels to come. I will see you at the next location.